Hey there, Q4 is upon us, and that means that we are in the season of open carts and closed carts and affiliate launches and BOGOs and discount codes and Black Friday sales. And for a lot of coaches, consultants, and course creators, this is the time of the year when we're gonna get as much as 50 or 60% of our total sales for the year. And along with those big sales means that we've got a lot more cash in the bank than we normally have. And that's great, but I see so many online entrepreneurs making bad spending decisions with that cash at the end of the year. So today what I wanna do is share with you the top 3 mistakes that I see so many online business owners making, specifically with cash at the end of the year. And I'm gonna share with you the #1 tool that you can use to avoid making those mistakes. Let's go. All right, the first big cash decision that I see entrepreneurs kind of goofing up is they have their big launch and they've got all this cash in the bank and they decide that they're gonna spend that cash to reduce their net profitability. What? If you're a sole proprietor or an LLC, your tax liability is generally based on the net profitability of your company. And so remember, revenue minus expenses equals net profit. So the line of thinking goes, all right, I have all of this cash, I've got a lot of net profit at the end of the year, I don't want to have to pay taxes on that. And so what they do is they'll go out and decide, I'm going to go buy the new MacBook Pro that just came out, or I'm going to go invest in that high-end coach, or pay for that big mastermind, or maybe you decide that you're going to take one of those trips to Tulum that all of your friends do in order to reduce the net profitability of your business so that you can reduce your tax liability. The problem with that is most of the time, these expenses, they're just things that the entrepreneur drums up for the sake of reducing their tax liability. And this strategy is completely ill-informed. Now, don't get me wrong. I want you as a business owner to pay the lowest possible taxes that you can, as long as it's legal and ethical. In fact, we help our clients do that all the time. But the reality is you need to have a healthy amount of net profitability in your business every year. After all, net profitability is what goes towards paying things like owner's distributions. It fuels future growth. It's there for retained earnings. Having net profitability is really important, and it's a general indicator that your business is doing well. The downside to that is, yeah, you're gonna have to pay taxes on that profitability. But spending tens of thousands of dollars on expenses that your business doesn't actually need in order to save a few $1,000s on taxes, that's just silly. It's like stepping over dollars to pick up nickels. So the takeaway here is, yeah, it can make sense for you to go ahead and spend this year on expenses that you would have needed to spend next year anyway in order to fuel growth for your business. But don't go throwing tens of thousands of dollars towards unnecessary expenses just so you can stick it to the man and pay a lower tax bill. The second mistake that I see is also related to taxes. And this kind of comes, especially like on the heels of having just a fantastic year the year before, where you've got record revenues, you've got record profitability, and you sit down and you think about, what do I need to invest in my business so that I can strategically grow over the coming years? Maybe you decide now is the time to invest in growing your team, or maybe you decide that you're gonna double down on that marketing strategy that worked so well for you the prior year, or maybe you decide it's time to invest in a copywriter and a branding project to really elevate things so that you can start charging more. And those are all absolutely amazing things. The problem comes 3 or 4 months into next year when your CPA hands you that huge tax bill because you had so much net profitability the year before. And so you've only been thinking about things that you needed to invest your cash in to grow, but you didn't earmark any money for that tax bill that was going to be coming down. And I will tell you what, when you get hit by a surprise $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 tax bill in April, it is an absolute momentum killer, because when you get that bill, it's time to make some really hard decisions. You've got to figure out, how are you going to pay the bill? And do you go get like a loan or a credit card at 19% interest to pay off that huge tax liability? Ask for a payment plan from the IRS. Now you've got cash outflows going every month to pay your current taxes and your past taxes. And oh, by the way, those all come with penalties and interest and fines. It can start to get really expensive, and it can really paint an entrepreneur into a corner if they get hit with a big tax bill like that. My takeaway for you here is, now that we're approaching the end of the year, I really want to encourage you to sit down with your tax preparer, look at what your profitability and your cash position is so far going into, Super Bowl period of Q4 for us, and really have them help you figure out how much cash should you be setting aside for those tax payments that are inevitably going to be coming due sometime in the next few months. The third and final big mistake that I see entrepreneurs making with cash at the end of the year is they decide to pay themselves too much money. And this is kind of ironic because throughout the year, entrepreneurs typically underpay themselves. We've all been guilty of it. If you've been in business more than a few months, you've probably come up on a point where you're like, I'm not going to take home any money this month because I've got to pay my team and I want to leave some retained earnings in the business for a rainy day. You know, it seems like we're the last ones that get paid, but for some reason, when we get to December, and especially on the heels of successful launches and Black Friday sales and all those kind of things, this is the period where we decide to really splurge on ourselves to make up for all the pay that we left on the table for ourselves early in the year. But the problem is we tend to overpay ourselves. Now, don't get me wrong. I absolutely want you to pay yourself at the end of the year. And in fact, I would love for you to bonus yourself at the end of the year if that serves you and your business well. But you have to be forward looking about it. You have to be thinking about how much cash can you afford to bring home and how much cash do you need to leave in the business so that you're set up for success in 2022. And really, that's kind of the common thread with all three of these mistakes. To make truly smart cash spending decisions, you've got to be forward looking and you've got to be forward thinking. You have to be not only mindful of how much cash you need today and how much cash you have today, but you've also got to be thinking about how much cash do I need next week, next month, next quarter, next year. And that all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do that? Well, it turns out there's actually a term for it, and it's called cash flow forecasting. And I will admit, cash flow forecasting sounds really fancy and really confusing, but it's a fairly simple concept. First, you're going to look at the amount of cash you have in the business today. You're going to look at how much cash is coming into the business over the next weeks or months or quarters. You're going to look at how much cash is going out of the business over that same period of time. Then you're going to do some basic addition and subtraction to determine how much cash is going to be left. Once you have all that mapped out, now you can go in and start to ask yourself, hey, how much cash can I afford to pay myself at the end of December? Because you understand what your cash needs are and what your cash balances are. So you can kind of go in and start playing around and moving the pieces around to figure out what's a safe amount of money to take home. It's a really empowering exercise. And if you want to make spending decisions with confidence, I highly recommend you get into the cash flow forecasting game. But you're probably thinking, where do I even start with all this cash flow forecasting stuff? Mike, do you have some kind of tool that I can use? Are there any tips or tricks or lookouts or any other resources that you can give me to kind of help me get this cash flow forecasting thing in place in my business? And the answer is yes. I have decided to launch a 5-day cash flow challenge where starting November 8th, I'm going to walk you through step by step everything you need to do to get a really meaningful cash flow forecast in place for your business. I'm going to give you the same tools that I give normally just to my high-end coaching clients and my CFO clients. And I'm going to walk you through step by step everything you need to do to get your cash flow forecast filled out. And then to wrap everything up at the end of the week, I'm gonna go live for 90 minutes and answer as many questions as I possibly can from the audience to help them get their cash flow forecasts in place. And the cool part, this is 100% absolutely free. So we're kicking off on November 8th, and I'd love for you to go to cashflowchallenge.com and get signed up. Once again, this is absolutely free. It's just something I'm doing at the end of the year because I want business owners to be ready to go, have all the momentum and all the cash they need going into 2022. So sign up right now, cashflowchallenge.com. I can't wait to see you starting November 8th.